It's a different thing. My question to you specifically is, what will you consider to be Buhari's most tangible achievement in almost 8 years?
Well, to be honest with you, that man administered Nigeria with a lot of guts. There were things that the ordinary man would not have been able to do. The ordinary man would not have the right willpower to do that Buhari did.
Like what?
But let's not, I don't want to, since that is not the crux of the question. Now let's go directly to the things that he did. Let's take infrastructure. He made a lot of bold steps in the area of infrastructure.
So guys, before we dive into this topic, human rights lawyer Chief Malcolm Omihobo has reacted to Buhari's statement. We all know that President Buhari said, peaceful outcome of 2023 election is one of my administration's proudest achievements. You know, there have been so many reactions, you know. So many people have been reacting to this statement. And I tell you, Buhari and the APC are claiming that this election was free and fair. Guys, I'm going to read out to you what this lawyer, Chief Malcolm Omihobo, said. One of his tweets, he said, reflect on past 8 years. Your Excellency, your 8 years was now sitting and devastating to Nigerians. No amount of appeal can right your wrong. In his second tweet, he said, insecurity, rice price jumped by 200%. So with all the initial gra-gra, closing of borders, seizing and banning of imported rice, propaganda rice pyramid, and waste of public funds by Buhari's government on Nigeria's self-sufficiency in local rice production. Now wetin we gain? Hunger. Another person equally tweeted and said, Buhari said if there is too much noise in Daura, he will relocate to Niger Republic at the end of his tenure. If Tinubu becomes president, he will relocate to Guinea-Conakry at the end of his tenure. You call them Nigerians, but they know they are not Nigerians. Amumu plenty. So guys, you can see some of the reactions, you know, on Twitter. So guys, in this video, you are going to be listening to one of APC's chieftain who has come out to praise Buhari for his achievements in his 8 years in office. So guys, just take a look at this video and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.
It's a different thing. My question to you specifically is, what will you consider to be Buhari's most tangible achievement in almost 8 years?
Well, a lot of Nigerians would have been grateful to hear their president speak from the heart this past week when he appreciated their support as well as shared their concern for a unified and progressive nation in equal measure. However, his self-assessment of an administration that has overseen 2 recessions in its lifetime, economic impoverishment of more than 130 million Nigerian citizens, as well as hundreds of thousands of victims lost to insurgency and terrorism, has been spooking an interesting public reaction since last week. For a chat around all of these, we're now being joined by Biodun Ajiboye, one of the president's most trusted allies and Assistant Director of Media Publicity for the All Progressives Congress Presidential Council during the last elections. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Ajiboye, and thank you.
Thank you very much
for coming on the morning show.
Good morning.
Nice to hear again.
Nice to be speaking with you. As you heard in my introduction, the president used the opportunity, during the Eid celebrations to, tout his achievements. The current one being the elections. I mean, he said that it is the most transparent in Nigeria's history. Do you agree with him?
Well, I think I do. Why? If we went to that election without the kind of comfort expected, the natural and necessary instrument expected to enter into an election, that was the time the central bank policy on Naira redesign. There was no no money to prosecute the election. I'm not talking about bribing voters or anything. I'm talking about even paying agents. There was just no cash anywhere. If we went into that election like that, and the election still came out without any violence, of
any violence?
No, I want off. You didn't allow me to finish that part. Violence of serious magnitude. For instance, in Lagos, I understand we recorded about 84 polling booths with violence in about 13,000 polling units, so less than 1%. So that's not enough. It's not substantial enough to say that the election was marred by a lot of violence. I mean, just, So what I'm simply saying is that that election was transparent, and if we went into that election with that kind of circumstance, people had thought that elections naturally were things people would buy. In the last elections, we had issues with buying votes, buying voters, and all of that. Vote buying, but we couldn't have bought votes without money, and there was no money, and everybody knew there was no money. I went to Oro, my village, with about 20,000 in my pocket, which was, so it is clear that that election was transparent. And Buhari had always said everywhere that he would leave a legacy of transparent elections where money bags will not hijack electoral process. He had said that clearly, that if it's the last thing he will give to Nigerians, he will try to do that. I understand that, we politicians criticized that money policy, that redesign at the time.
I was just going to say that, because now you are...
But now that he stood his grounds, we went through the elections, a winner emerged, it then shows that elections can actually be done without money being thrown around. I mean, Buhari achieved that. Whatever anybody else, that is the other side of it is clear. So those who lost the election could feel perhaps, but all those are issues to be consigned to history as we speak. But the point I'm trying to make here is, I think deliberately he wanted to de-emphasize the effect of money in election management, and he achieved it.
So what is your stance now on that money aspect?
That it was possible, that he set out to say, okay, I will not allow money to be a major point of influence in this election. And if it is possible, then he has in a way turned around our electoral practice and electoral attitude.
Several of the governors in APC ganged up against the president on that money issue.
That's what I said. I said it wasn't, we didn't like it.
Okay.
But now that it stood its grounds, it has happened, the election had come and gone, then we can refer to it.
So Emefiele did well, you would say?
Emefiele did not do well.
Okay.
There is
I don't believe he did well.
train of thought or a theory that says, you are here talking about the fact that, because there wasn't money in circulation, then there wasn't money that could have been used for, vote buying. But there are people that would say that the lack of money thereof before the elections had made people desperate enough, because they didn't have access to cash, that when eventually the CBN had released that directive, just a few days before, to start making sure that cash started to go out. Isn't it? If I'm looking at it as someone who has not been able to see cash for a long time, and finally is able to lay their hands on 2,000, 3,000 naira, doesn't that in itself increased the level of vote buying? Now you talk about the fact that there was a free and fair election. There were people in Lagos State, in Adamawa, in River State who had come out. We had seen the Yaga international bodies that had come in and had given their reports that it wasn't free and fair. There are people that were attacked. There are people, it was marred by political thuggery. So I don't know, when you come out and say that, aren't you almost speaking to the Nigerian people and telling them to believe something that we clearly know wasn't the case?
I don't agree with you, and it's my right. But the point is simple. Are you saying that we can have election in a population of over 200 million people and there will be no negative stories at all? Is it possible? Even in human interactions, is it possible? So you are bothered about if you were around in 1983, then you will know what it means to have an election that is mad with violence. Anybody who was alive an adult in 1983, would know that this election was extremely fair, peaceful, and transparent. At that time, immediately after election, you see houses being set on fire. Do you understand? I mean, that was the tradition of election where we are coming from. And, well, the 1993 election was not conclusive. The 1999 election, right, was equally marred seriously by ballot box snatching, violence. You can see violence at a scale that you will know, you will be alarmed. All these international observers saying X, Y, when they must make comments, but if their comments were substantial enough, it would have alerted the electoral body to say, look, let's give this a thought. But there must be complaints. There must be, it's natural for me. So I understand when I say that the election was peaceful, with benefit of history.
So you mean in comparison to previous elections, it was peaceful,
yeah,
even though there was violence?
There must be.
It was just a reduced level of violence.
Is there any human exercise, even in the Catholic Church, there could be violence? So where in the world do you see that human beings gather and the story, and there's no one negative story? It's not possible now. We're all reporters now. It's not possible. But the truth of the matter is that in a situation where you have 13,000 polling units, for instance, and they report violence in 84, it shows that it's less than 1%.
Well, that won't make it free and fair, though.
Well,
even if it's just 1%.
Well,
especially when that violence and irregularities took an ethnic kind of coloration. It isn't just about not people getting to their polling units and not being allowed to vote. It's about the fact that some people could not even go out. It's about the fact that there were things that were erected that disencouraged people, they scared people from coming out. But I don't want to belabor the issue of...
We shouldn't actually.
Exactly.
So they don't take me to ICC the second time.
What the president considers one of his achievement. The jury, of course, will still be out when you compare this election with that of 1993 that brought in Abiola but was not allowed to rule, the option A4. That's a different thing. My question to you specifically is, what will you consider to be Buhari's most tangible achievement in almost 8 years?
Well, to be honest with you, that man administered Nigeria with a lot of guts. There were things that the ordinary man would not have been able to do. The ordinary man would not have the right willpower to do that Buhari did.
Like what?
But let's not, I don't want to, since that is not the crux of the question. Now let's go directly to the things that he did. Let's take infrastructure. He made a lot of bold steps in the area of infrastructure. It could be because of the kind of minister he had. We all know Fashola and the way he works. But in the area of infrastructure, road, rail, he did quite a lot of. He did so well. So well to the extent that if we look at those roads that were not completed during the previous administrations, he completed them. I don't want to start, going into specifics. Well, I have quite a lot of them here, but I don't think it's about which road did he do, which road did he not do. The fact is that in the area of infrastructure, he did very well. But if I'm compelled to begin to name them, I have them here, I can begin to read them out. But it does not mean that Buhari didn't have his low points. For instance, the management of foreign exchange regime, for me, was a low point for him. How that came about, again, you will not particularly blame Buhari specifically because If Buhari had a manager.
You're looking for another way to blame Emefiele, right?
No, Emefiele will be blamed at all times. Because even
Emefiele reports to somebody.
Well, the truth of the matter is that
And there is a board.
Steve, me and you know clearly that Emefiele was appointed because of his professional know-how.
Yes.
Therefore, it's like when I was publishing a magazine, I had editors. Those editors were responsible to their certificates. If I told them, do this, and they felt it was not professionally okay for them, they could say, no, I won't. Because if it went bad, my certificate is called to question. The same with Emefiele. If certain policies were not particularly in agreement with his professional ethics, he had a right to say, I won't do this. So, for me, the bad regime we had in the area of foreign exchange management was purely his error and his fault. My view, my personal view.
If he's not removed, Emefiele will spend the first 1 year with the Asiwaju presidency. And therefore, if he's set in his ways, it is left for the president to say, this is the direction that I want to take.
I agree with you considerably. There's no doubt about it. If I hire a manager, I must have a direction. I must have a focus. I must have a set objectives. What do I want to achieve as the person that's hired manager?
Yeah.
But I hired the manager on the strength of his competence, first of all. Therefore, his competence is supposed to complement my objective. Where is not complementing my objective, I have a responsibility to say, no, you don't seem to be doing it the way I think I want to achieve. So please leave. Inability for Buhari to fire Emefiele and a few other people at proper time was a weakness on his part. Take it or leave it. It's my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with Asiwaju. It has nothing to do with PCC. It has nothing to do with APC. It's my personal opinion. And I want to be held responsible for the opinion.
Okay, you've discussed about how you think Buhari has fared, and you've just, I believe, just mentioned infrastructure. I'm not sure you have gotten, deeper into how Buhari has fared. And I'd like for you to touch on how he's done with national security, as well as fighting corruption on both.
Well, between you and I, somebody described Buhari as a coach who sits and watch his players play. Let's look at the area of
the minister of works, right?
let's discuss Buhari. Let's discuss security, for instance. I do know that before Buhari came into power, even Abuja was bombed serially. It's a fact. Bombed as in people who lived in Abuja lived in fear. And there was even this scare that Boko Haram was going to enter Abuja at the time. Buhari came in, all of that became history. Nothing of that happened in his 8 years. See, we need to appreciate that the way people echo government, non-performance of government is different from what government actually does. People try to make it look so bad. But when you go, and if you go to the nitty-gritty, you can see some credit. For instance, when we were going to have the 2015 elections, four states and about 29 or 30 something local governments were off the electoral. They were not going to even do elections in those places. Why? Because Boko Haram are taking root in those places to the extent that they even claim those places were no longer part of Nigeria. That was cleared off the way during Buhari's time. If anybody doesn't see that as an achievement, I do. Because if that trajectory had continued, we will not probably have Nigeria as we speak. You and I will not be able to sit here and discuss. So, let us measure issues. Now, even Borno, that was the center of the crisis of Boko Haram, things became calm during Buhari's time. Although, the flip side of that is that a lot of other things erupted. Kidnapping, herdsmen, blah, blah, but, considerably. He tackled security or insecurity the best way he could, and there was a substantial reduction in the menace that insecurity gave to Nigerian people.
You think Buhari tackled insecurity in Nigeria? And let me just reel out some statistics for you here. In Kaduna State alone, last year, 4,227 people were killed in Kaduna alone by terrorists. And, you know, if we're even just talking about the recent attack, about 33 people died 2 weeks ago in Kaduna State alone. I mean, how can you sit here and say that national security was handled good with the Buhari administration?
I just gave you comparative analysis. I just told you what happened in 2015. I just told you 4 states were taken out of Nigeria.
But you're not giving me any statistics.
No, it's not about.
These are just,
if what we're here to do is to give statistics,
yes,
we won't even.
I mean, that's why
I have
your
statistics
job.
here.
But if can you reel those out? If that's your job.
No, my job is to give an idea of what is happening, and every Nigerian listening to me know exactly what has happened in Nigeria. I mean, yes. The issue of Kaduna you are talking about wasn't in 2015, wasn't in 2017, was not even in 2020, probably last year, okay? I mean, so, yeah, now, if you say that the so number of people were killed in Kaduna, do you want to compare to that to the number of people that have been killed in Borno to Boko Haram? So what I'm saying is that if the if the what do you call this? If the violence in Borno was so high, and Buhari was able to stem it down, like I said in my statement, a lot of other insecurity issues came up, kidnapping, all these Kaduna things came up, and well, you know. But the point I'm making is that he did his best in the area of tackling Boko Haram and the spread of Boko Haram. And we could see the reduction physically and practically. That does not mean that they didn't go to Owo, the Catholic Church in Owo, to kill people. That didn't mean that they were not killing people in the southeast. You understand what I'm saying? Just like in America, they kill people a lot. That is worse, but probably the Western media doesn't expose it. You know, all of that. So we won't, because
America is not organized terrorism. It is.
I agree.
It is gun violence.
Steve, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. All I'm trying to just say is that
comparison.
No, okay. If you say so, but why I'm trying to compare is that
the number of deaths
and violence. You understand? Violence everywhere, but some of these places we don't even hear. That is not supposed to mean that violence should be happening in anywhere at all in Nigeria. No, and that's not supposed to equally mean that I am blind to the areas Buhari had not done well. No. All I'm trying to say is that there are areas he did well. And when you talk of this insecurity, I remember very well in 2015, up to 2015, and before 2015, Abuja was almost becoming, the federal capital was almost becoming invaded. You understand? And for some reason, this was, stemmed.
You're right, including the United Nations House, even the police building.
Yes, those are the issues.
But let me take you, let me quickly jump in and draw you back to the low size of Buhari that you mentioned. And I'd like to ask you this, because the issue of deregulation, the issue of subsidy is very high on the agenda, which the incoming president will also have to deal with. In your own opinion, what do you think that President Buhari discovered in the management of subsidy that overwhelmed him as to the extent of changing his position about the fact that somebody who said that it is fraud, there is no subsidy going on, and he was vociferous about that with Professor Tam David West. But then all of a sudden, not only is his administration talking about the fact that the same subsidy that was denied will now be removed, but Nigeria has never paid this horrendous amount of subsidies, before. It is only under Buhari that we are getting to 3 trillion, 4 trillion, and now 6 trillion plus on subsidy. What went wrong? What did he discover that he didn't know as petroleum minister before, as head of state, as chairman of Abacha's, what was that organization called? The oil, the money from the fuel savings. What happened to him?
You know, I told you about leaders and their styles. For me, if I was president of Nigeria, I probably would take the approach of confronting issues frontally, without all those political considerations here and there. For whatever it is worth, continuing to pay subsidy the way the government of Nigeria had done in the past was unnecessary, was a bit reckless and unnecessary. Well, I think Buhari did not like the issue of subsidy initially. How he got convinced to tolerate subsidy up to this point, and now we are struggling to remove it, is an issue I personally need to go and research, and I would not want to, give an analysis of an issue I'm not particularly very sure
I
about.
hope that the president-elect will research it as well, because Buhari was an expert of some sort in subsidy matters. He was petroleum minister.
Absolutely.
He was head of state. He knew what was going on. He was part of the construction of the refinery, so he knew what he was saying.
I think the expertise we need in that respect is that of an economic manager who knows that, okay, we pay. I remember Ashwaju saying very well that, okay, if I drive a Rolls Royce or a Mercedes Benz Maybach, why would I pay same subsidy or with an Okada rider? I should pay more. The Okada rider should be relieved of huge payment.
The subsidy would not have been necessary if the refineries were working inadequate.
And that again worries me, because the issue of refinery was one of those things Buhari actually set out to achieve.
Yeah.
How he wasn't able to achieve it is a mystery to me.
In 8 years.
Yeah, but all the same, Ashwaju had said very clearly that the subsidy issue would go, and there will be a lot of emphasis on gas, so that our revenue base can increase.
All right.
And we can get to do a lot. Then with the advent of Dangote's refinery, I think we have a bit of reprieve in this, a bit of succor in this regard. And I hope we'll be able to manage going forward. And I assure you that an Ashwaju government will tackle some of these things headlong and ensure that it brings succor to the Nigerian people faster than we can imagine.
All right.
Because
all right, let's talk about the Ashwaju government. It's exactly 35 days to Inauguration Day, and I believe this day is reporting that he's coming back into the country tomorrow after a month stay in France. And you know that, since he's been gone, there's been a lot of stories, and the top on the list is a report by an investigative journalist, David Hundeyin, who claimed that Ashwaju committed perjury by saying that he does not have dual citizenship, and he's alleging that Ashwaju is Guinean. He has a Guinean passport. And since that report, we have not heard from your camp. Would like for you some clarity on that, if you can.
you take Hundeyin seriously. You take that fellow
it's
seriously.
a report. I mean, it's a report out there.
There's nothing to worry about that. Let him go to court if he has issues, if he has worries. If he believes that Ashwaju has a Guinean passport and he has dual citizenship, let him approach the court. Let him not make the social media his court.
Well, I'm sure that he will. But I think that Ashwaju, is going to be president. He is president.
He's president-elect. He's going to be sworn in.
Exactly.
Normally.
And so that
everybody's happy about that. I don't know about you.
That is part of his responsibility to respond to Nigerians.
We will respond at the appropriate time. I don't consider it appropriate now.
You don't consider it appropriate?
No,
is it that you have not had any discussion about
Even
that?
if I've had, and I don't consider it appropriate, there's no amount of questioning you can give me that will make me consider it appropriate. If I say, if I feel, if we don't consider it appropriate to respond. The reason is very simple. We are getting into government, serious business. We know where Nigerians are coming from, where Nigeria is coming from. It's serious business. We can't be dissipating energy on trivialities like one young boy found the one passport. If it is so fundamental, let the court decide on it. Let's not belabor the issue. That's my opinion.
That perjury is a serious issue.
And let the but court is the appropriate place to argue perjury now, not here now.
Yeah.
We can only discuss it here. And no matter what we discuss here, the court has the authority to rule on it.
Yes, sir. Remove David Odeyin from the equation.
Okay.
Does Asiwaju have dual nationality?
I do not know. But even if it does, is it against the law of Nigeria? And even if it is, then let whoever is aggrieved or concerned and or whoever has a local standard to go to court and challenge it. And let's listen to what the court will say. That's my opinion.
So even as like Oji said, he's making his way back, obviously getting ready to be sworn in on the 29th of
We will
May
be sworn in.
as the yes, of course, as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yes. We've spoken about, you know, Buhari's legacy.
Yes.
Now going into this new administration and this handover we're about to witness, how should the president-elect Tinubu start off this administration? We know what should be his focus, and let's say for the first 100 days, and even as it progresses to the remaining part of his tenure.
In my opinion, and judging from what I gather, Asiwaju's major policy, starting his government, will be how to bring succor to the Nigerian people, the welfareist approach. The common man on the street should know some peace, economically, socially. That is the trust, that's our policy trust coming into power. Because at the end of the day, what the Nigerian man had gone through in the last 14 years, somebody needs to assuage them of this hardship. That's what Asiwaju is coming to do.
Well, you speak about him trying to, you know, take hardship away, but it's when we're looking at this this situation of subsidy removal, the fact that he has been, you know, it's one of the things that he ran his campaign on, and he has insisted that he is going to do. Now, if that in itself goes into action, we're seeing economic hardship rising as opposed to going down, and that $800 million palliative that has been said would be used to compensate and relieve 50 million homes in Nigeria won't be enough. So, you know, as well, we're looking at two sides of a coin here. One, you know, pulling Nigerians back into economic hardship, and you saying that he's going to be doing the latter. How does that balance out?
Now, when you have a doctor and you have an illness, it is left to the doctor to use the appropriate strategy to solve the problem of your ailment. Asiwaju is an economic manager. Don't forget, Asiwaju met Lagos IGR at 600 million. He left it at about 14 billion. That is the man with the magic wand. So when we get to power, we'll come back here. I will come back here to discuss the practicality of his intention or of his action.
Or you could give us some insight.
Well, the insight I'm going to give you is going to be based on the fact that I have already said that his action will be basically to address the issue of the common man. How do we bring succor to the common man? We recognize that the common man on the street has issues, a lot of issues. Is the first 100 days of his policy will be how to ensure that the economic hardship being experienced by Nigerians, become, reduced considerably. Talking about subsidy, why I went the route I went with you was that, okay, I won't begin to say this is what is going to do, this is what is not going to do. What I know is that if we have $800 million and you are already telling me that $800 million for 50 million people will not be enough, will not be this, will not be that. That is not the way the economic managers will think. They will put plans together. They would magnify. They will magnify the $800 million in many other ways. An economic manager knows how to use the $800 million to get $1 trillion or to get $1 billion. How? So these are the nitty-gritty that I can't be discussing here.
Yeah.
But it is left for them. Once you see, the difference between Asiwaju and other people is the fact that he knows how to get the right person to do the right job.
Okay, Otoba, we have to run, but before we do that, just a very quick one. A lot of people expect that one of the low-hanging fruits of the Asiwaju presidency will be the caliber of his team. And of course, the chief of staff will be an integral, important component of that team. We're hearing of different names. Are there indications or indicators to look out for? You know, will Suru be Lere, you know, as far as the choice of the chief of staff, you know, is concerned?
Well, you see, it will not be proper for me, having worked with him or as one of his aides, like like you said, to preempt what he's going to do and who he's going to appoint. And I wouldn't want us to start discussing the rumor making the rounds. But I do know that there are a few people that have been laid, you know, put on. He will make a good choice of chief of staff. A chief of staff that will have the capacity, capability, experience, and knowledge to address the issues as it concerns managing Nigeria. There are a lot of plans in that respect, but you see, I don't want us to start putting him under pressure with respect to who he should choose and who he should not. No, it's not going to be right for me to do.
That's fine.
I've done that. I did that a couple of days on a couple of weeks ago when they asked me, there was a front page mention of Femi Gbajabiamila.
Yes.
And I said, well, if that report was correct, Femi is a fantastic choice. If that report was correct.
Well, all right. On that note, we want to thank you.
So guys, you have seen it for yourself. APC, they are praising themselves that they've done well. Buhari said one of his best achievements in his administration was the peaceful outcome of the 2023 election. It means that, you know, APC and the Buhari's government, they've confirmed that this election was a peaceful one. And that is why, you know, they are so reluctant about the petitions that are being filed against them, because they are claiming that this election was fair, it was credible. But we all saw what happened during this election, and they know that the Nigerian people have rejected this election. And for Buhari's achievement, I don't even know where to start. Is it the nepotism that people experience? All the important positions were given to people from certain parts of the country, while Buhari neglected other places, like especially the southeast. And we are all witness of what is happening in Nigeria. Nothing is working. Look at the aviation sector. Nothing is happening in that area. Look at the roads we have. The insecurity is there. There are so many challenges that Nigeria has gone through in this Buhari's administration, and still Buhari was not able to address any of them. So guys, this is one of the reasons why we say that we really want to retire these politicians, so that new people will come into the place of power and make great changes. We need people that can come and impact the lives of the Nigerian people. We all know how Buhari was, you know, having this quest to become the president of Nigeria. He wanted to become president at all costs, and now he was given the opportunity. He has taken us like 10 years backward. I tell you, nothing is working in Nigeria. When you compare Nigeria with other African countries, you know that Nigeria is really lacking behind. So guys, you have heard it for yourself. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.